Let me tell you about an organization that needs your help year-round. Jeremiah Program is breaking the cycle of poverty 2 generations at a time by empowering single moms to pursue college degrees while their children receive high-quality early education. And your gift provides critical support that makes success possible. So go on over to jeremiahprogram.org/Austin to give today and learn how you can be part of the movement to disrupt generational poverty. Again, that's jeremiahprogram.org/Austin.
This is Your City Could Be Better, because it could be. I'm David Plotz. If you love your city and still complain about it, you're in the right place. Sean, one of the most heartwarming things I have seen coming out of the Twin Cities during this time of protest is the singing at protests, the singing on the streets. So what's the best song that you've heard?
Stand By Me. Brass Solidarity did Stand By Me in the Target Center lobby on the Day of Truth and Freedom. And that was the most that the music has hit me during this time.
Did people sing along to it?
Absolutely. I don't think you're allowed to not sing along to that tune. They certainly got them going.
That is so true. Okay, let's get into it. This is the first episode of Your City Could Be Better, because it could be. Every week, I'm going to talk to insiders from cities around the U.S. about something their city is doing incredibly well or surprisingly well or not at all well, so that you can learn from them. Mostly, I'm going to talk to hosts from CityCast Podcast, the network of daily local podcasts in 13 cities around the U.S., folks that know and love their city and understand their city more than anyone. So it was pretty obvious when we started thinking about Your City Could Be Better, where we should start and launch this podcast for this first episode. The community organizing in the Twin Cities in response to the federal immigration crackdown, the raids of Operation Metro Surge, it's been nothing short of incredible. It's astonishing. No matter how you might feel about the cause that this protest and this activism and this activity represents, you've got to respect what the anti-ICE organizers have done just as a matter of community organizing. So I am thrilled to be joined by CityCast Twin Cities host Sean McPherson. Hello, Sean.
Hello, David.
Who is going to tell me how the residents of the Twin Cities have self-organized so effectively and so safely and so joyfully, and how other cities could do the same. And after we've gotten through all the meaty stuff, we're going to have a Twin Cities versus Washington, D.C. face-off on local culture. So, Sean, start us off by telling briefly what the various forms of citizen-organized protest you've seen in the Twin Cities, or protest and monitoring and mutual aid, I should say, that you've seen in the Twin Cities recently.
There's the tailing of ICE, and observing of ICE and being present when ICE is doing raids or present when ICE is traveling. As far as mutual aid, it's like getting groceries for people. That's something I've been involved in. You get a grocery list from a family that doesn't feel comfortable going to the store, and you deliver it. There's also rides for people who want rides to work. There's being a physical presence at a place ICE might not be at the moment, but could be soon. So maybe that's standing on nearby a school. That might just be standing nearby an immigrant-owned restaurant or a restaurant that's frequented by immigrants. And those are really the big things.
So I think what really struck me about this as it happened is not that it happened, it's that it happened so quickly, that you guys went from being a city that was just like doing the usual thing, going ice fishing, et cetera, to suddenly a really significant percentage of the population of the city is engaged in these activities. And it seemed like it happened overnight. How did that develop? Like, what was required for that to happen so quickly?
I believe some of the reason it felt like it happened overnight is because whatever semblance of normalcy we had, we weren't all the way normal post-2020. When George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis, there was already networks then. Those networks became really strong during that summer, but they didn't totally leave. A lot of people were still on some of these signal chats. Some of these people were also just used to putting that together. So there is a way to hop into action that wasn't a distant memory. It wasn't something your older sibling did. It was something that you did just a handful of years ago. And that network definitely involves new people and definitely involves new technologies, but it was within the Twin Cities skill set to call upon what was learned in 2020 and update it and make it appropriate for this moment in 2025 and 2026.
Yeah. So let's talk specifically about how that happens. You already referenced Signal. How do people self-organize? What is the software? What is the equipment? Like, how is it that people actually know, okay, this is the family that I'm buying groceries for. This is the place where I'm going to stand on the street and look out for ICE potentially patrolling near my school.
The three big ones technology-wise that I'm really aware of is Signal, which is an encrypted messaging format that is pretty familiar to a lot of people now, but it lets you communicate with someone without necessarily knowing their phone number and perhaps without having the amount of monitoring that might happen on a regular text message. There's also JotForm. Have you ever heard of JotForm, David?
I have heard of it. I feel like that's like for getting snacks to the kids' soccer thing.
Okay, yes, that is actually very accurate because JotForm is what you sign up for if you're part of the St. Paul Public Schools community and you can help. The first thing you do is fill out this JotForm. JotForms are really frequently being used to vet people to then join Signal groups. So you might be on this JotForm identifying how you're connected to this community, how you're connected to St. Paul Public Schools. Are you a parent? Are you an administrator? Are you just connected to the community in a way where you want to help? And the information you provide gives organizers the ability to vet you to partially figure out like, okay, no, you are not pretending to be a member of this community. You are a member of this community. So that's what I'm seeing JotForm used for. The other one everybody's familiar with, Google Docs. But I'm finding Google Docs that goes, this is where actions are happening. This is what to be aware of. But the big thing, David, is Signal. You get on the Signal groups through actually knowing people or through JotForms, and then the communication happens primarily on Signal.
And those are being vetted how? So you just talked about the JotForms, so you'd fill something out, but you fill it out and you say, I'm Sean McPherson, I am, a parent of X at this school. And then does someone go literally check out, does Sean McPherson exist? Is he a parent at the school?
That's my impression. I have been vetted, but I have not done anything reporting-wise on how that vetting is being done. What I think is frankly happening is a fair amount of Google searches, Facebook searches to sort of substantiate, oh, this is a person whose name has appeared before, or there's a person who's on a family directory. And one reason vetting is important, David, because like there are people trying to infiltrate some of these groups, but this is not, they're not trying to substantiate hundreds of thousands of people. You are generally in Signal groups with sub 100 people. It's a small network. This is, okay. I'm not on like the Revolution Signal. I'm on like the St. Paul Signal. And I'm also on a couple grocery delivery signals, but none of these have hundreds of people on them. They all have, in my experience, max 100. But the only thing I want to share is that when I was able to start helping with groceries, they wanted to verify that I also wasn't trailing and observing ICE cars. Because, and this took me a minute to understand, but if I'm going to be going and delivering groceries to somebody's home, and that's somebody who doesn't feel comfortable leaving their home, you would hate for the car that's bringing those groceries to have a license plate that is already known as someone who is out tailing ICE. Just to be clear, the reasons I'm not tailing ICE is because that ain't for me. And one thing that's been wonderful about this moment is that you figure out what works for you, what is safe for you and for your family and for your schedule and for your job. Groceries works for me. I would not be able to do both. I was told, if you are doing this with your car, you cannot do that with your car. It is not safe for the families that you're trying to help.
Right. I was thinking about this, and it seems to me like one of the reasons why this movement is so effective is that there are really varieties of ways you can join in different levels. You can join in different degrees of political engagement or political passion that makes you join. You might not want to protest for some reason. You might not even be opposed to immigration enforcement. You might be support immigration enforcement, but not believe that the way it's being carried out is something that you can support. And you want to make sure that children are educated and safe and that families continue to eat. So I feel like what's also really interesting about what you're doing is that it gives people a way to participate or ways to participate that matches with their level of political engagement, their level of interest, and the way that feels comfortable for them. It's not just a one size fits all.
And it's also not one resource fits all. Or the other thing I want to add is that people can help in different ways based on what they're able to do. Some folks cannot scare up an extra $50 to send to mutual aid, but they can deliver a bunch of groceries that other people sent over. When I've been doing these grocery things, they've been like, oh, you can submit the receipt. And I'm going, I got it. If I can help out a family.
I was going to ask.
I'm not going to go, hey, it was $74 to get, fruits and vegetables. I am going to go, I can do this. My family agrees that this is a way that we can spend some of our money. That's not true for everybody. And what's really nice is there's no guilt. at least in the world I've been in, the people who aren't out there tailing ice are not treated as second-class protesters or second-class level people because they aren't doing perhaps the most dangerous work. You get in where you fit in, and there's so many different ways to fit in, and that has been really helpful. The other thing I'd add, David, is that you can get a lot done if nobody wants credit for it. And this is one of those moments where credit is dangerous. To say, this person helped put together the Signal chat, that person doesn't want to be on CityCast, right? We might like to have that person on CityCast Twin Cities, but they are more interested in the work going on. And so if suddenly nobody wants to see their names in bright lights celebrating what they're doing, it's a lot more efficient because people aren't arguing over credit.
With the Signal chat, with that example in particular, I mean, I know maybe you're talking about a hypothetical Signal chat, not an actual one. Do people know who actually put it together? Do they know their real name, or do they just know, oh, this is code name Alfalfa, and you just check in with Alfalfa? Or do people know who Alfalfa is?
There's code names that I am aware of. I don't know if they're like there's people who just have names where I don't think their mother or father gave them that name. You know, like I just go It sounds like more like Alfalfa than Patrick or than Seth. My name on my Signal is Sean. Like, and there isn't that.
Very clever. Very clever.
Exactly.
They
never
will never find you.
Adam Serwork from The Atlantic came here for a week, and he was embedded with people where the whole time he was traveling, he didn't know their names. They were doing some very serious tailing of ice with some information about where they thought ice would be. I am not privy to those Signal chats, and I think on those Signal chats, there is much more desire for code names. I don't think they have to run as tight a ship for grocery delivery.
Is there any way in which grocery delivery is afoul of the law? Can't imagine it is.
No, and this is something I've thought about. I don't know that there is that much value to be found to infiltrate the Signal chats that I am privy to. There is not some level of technique or of organizing that were Border Czar Tom Homan to be in on the chat would suddenly give him the keys to crack this thing.
Right.
I actually think that one of the big values of Signal is just it's clear that the people who are in the chat volunteer to think that this is the right thing to do. So nobody goes, this is dumb. Why are you delivering groceries? Nobody says, you leftist idiots. It just sort of, it more gives you a little circle of camaraderie and safety in those instances, like groceries. There's nothing proprietary or dangerous about what's happening, except we don't want folks' addresses and phone numbers. Those are shared with me individually, but you don't want that on there. That's the one, that's not illegal, but that's the one information that I don't think you'd want shared publicly.
So there was a great episode you guys did the other day that I was listening to, and it was about, part of it was about one of these groups that was patrolling around a school, and they had been wearing bright yellow safety vests, and I think they were switching to pink vests, even with maybe sort of writing on it. What is that? Why were they doing that? Why are they in pink vests and not in yellow vests? And can you just join them? Can I just go up and join them? I mean, I think based on what you've said, no, that would be a vetting process.
Right. So this was about actually my alma mater, St. Paul Central High School, where they elected to switch to pink vests as opposed to kind of you can buy them at Home Depot, bright orange, bright yellow vests. And some of that was, I mean, there's a lot of really weird visuals about this entire thing, David. But
you love saying the name of the person you're talking to.
It's
Sean.
Yes, David.
You really like it.
It's this trick. I mean,
feel I'm being sold.
I'm not in danger of forgetting your name. You're my boss's boss's boss. But it's one of those things where I've always been trained that that's like how you create that intimacy, where I go, no, listen, David, here's what's going on, David. My alma mater, David, St. Paul Central High, switched because the Minnesota National Guard is wearing green vests right now. So they first don't want to be confused with National Guard because they aren't going to be providing the services that the Minnesota National Guard is. It seems rather unlikely that one person standing outside of St. Paul Central would be confused with the Minnesota National Guard. But the other reason they wanted to go to pink is because they wanted something that was more difficult to obtain, because somebody had kind of walked up on one of these observers wearing a vest and immediately gave off the vibe as, I might be an ICE agent. And a lot of that has to do with starting off a conversation in a place that most parents wouldn't, where you wouldn't go up and go, hey, are we taking license numbers? And it's like, no, that's you go, how are you doing? What grade is your kid in? Or, something a little more conversational. And so the pink vests are to make it more difficult to pretend to be part of this group. And what I've heard and what I heard in the episode that you also listened to is that when folks come up and have some questions, you say, you got to go to this form. You got to go to this place to be vetted. Because the idea of going, yeah, we're keeping this school safe. Oh, grab a vest. You can be involved. It is just, that's terrible. Like that. So they need some amount of verification.
Hey y'all, it's time to make your voice heard. Austin continues to face significant infrastructure challenges like aging facilities, growing service demands, and affordability pressures. To organize and prioritize, representatives across city departments scored hundreds of individual project requests using criteria like timeliness and readiness, critical need, and efficiency. And then through a structured and collaborative review process, city staff refined this need assessment into their 2026 bond initial draft recommendation list. Y'all, this list totals $700 million. And then on January 21st, that list was submitted to mayor and council. So what does this mean for you? Community members are invited to a series of open house meetings to learn about proposed bond projects and share feedback that will help ensure these investments reflect Austin's most pressing infrastructure needs and community priorities. So RSVP and learn more at austintexas.gov/bond2026. Imagine this, your next podcast recorded in the same studio where you're hearing this right now. That's Trick Hat Workway. Trick Hat is Austin's most hospitality-driven co-working space. And yes, they've got a pro-level podcast studio designed for creators, teams, and businesses who want high-quality recordings without the stress of hunting down space or gear. Just show up, plug in, and hit record. Outside the studio, Trick Hat's got you covered. From private offices to dedicated desks, they offer flexible co-working options to fit any business or entrepreneur's needs. And can we talk about the perks? Freshly brewed coffee from Manana, endless snacks, and crispy Diet Cokes. But what really makes Trick Hat different is the energy. From weekly networking opportunities to community trick chats, it's more than a place to work. It's where Austin comes to connect, create, and have fun doing it. Whether you're producing your next big idea or just need a space that feels good to work in, Trick Hat Workway is waiting for you, where it's always old Austin, new tricks. Visit trickhatworkway.com to learn more today. Hey y'all, by now you've probably heard me raving about Window Nation. I've told you about the 1,500 styles and colors, their measuring process for the perfect fit, the lightning quick installation, and the lifetime warranty. But I haven't told you about what others are saying about them. They have over 45,000 five-star reviews. They have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. They have a 96% customer satisfaction rating, and Window Nation was recently ranked highest on Forbes' list of best window installation companies. With a track record like that, you can be sure you're getting high-quality, affordable windows. And you know I have to mention, you can get them with 0 down, 0 monthly payments, and 0 interest for 2 years. Plus, Window Nation's Buy 4, Get 4 Windows free sale is still going on right now. And if that's not enough, if you act now, you can get an extra 10% off for Valentine's Day. So go ahead, schedule a fast free estimate now at windownation.com.
Sean, are there any estimates, trustworthy, reliable estimates for how many people are taking part in the various forms of citizen action?
I have not heard any estimates made about how many people are taking any part in this action. I made an estimate because I knew you were going to ask this. So can I share with you my estimate and how I arrived at it? I took the population of Minneapolis plus the population of St. Paul. So not the suburbs. Okay. 428,000 for Minneapolis, 310,000 for St. Paul. And I added that together. And then I think that maybe slightly less than 15% of people would be on one of these groups doing some amount of sharing, some amount of riding. And I thought, I think it's less than 15%. But I know that there's people in the suburbs who are deeply involved in this, who are effectively part of the Twin Cities Metro. But if you put them all in, you might get a faulty number. With that, I got just north of 100,000. So 15% of the population of these two cities, I got to 100,000.
That's an amazing number if true. I guess my next question is, why would you say 15%? I mean, like what? I'm surely probably in your community, which I imagine is a probably engaged, probably leaning left, very skeptical, politically active community. It's very high, but there are presumably other neighborhoods where it's very low participation.
Exactly. And by involved, I mean like you are on a chat. Maybe you have never actually driven a bag of groceries anywhere. Maybe you've never actually given somebody a ride, but you've stepped up and you've joined one of these things. So then I thought, okay, but my circle is definitely more activated than most. And that's where I arrived at 15%. I agree with you. 100,000 people being involved in this level is huge. Being here, it seems plausible. And I like my circle's bigger. My circle's more active, but it seems plausible for the general population.
That's an amazing number. I buy it. I mean, certainly if you look at the street protests, the number of people who've shown up at street protests in miserable weather is enormous. And then all these other activities. Wow. So there are parts of what I've seen done in the Twin Cities that make me feel uncomfortable. Some of the tailing of ICE agents, not necessarily because I think it's wrong, but because I think we've already seen 2 tragic deaths. You can't blame the people who are doing the observing of ICE for the deaths, but it's clearly a volatile situation. And the closer you get, the more physically proximate you get, the chances of a volatile situation seem higher. I think there are these street blockades and barricades that you guys have talked about on CityCast Twin Cities. That would make me uncomfortable if I were a person living in Minneapolis or the Twin Cities. Even the kind of abuse, and I use that word intentionally, the abuse of ICE agents not allowing them to eat at a restaurant or making loud noises outside their hotels, that would make me uncomfortable if I were living there. Who's doing the activities that are more disruptive and provocative and dangerous? And is that a different demographic of people than the people who are delivering groceries?
I would imagine there's some people who are in both circles. There's and maybe not to a person, but there's families where they are probably both involved in protests that might not sit right with you and might not sit right with many people who are also doing things that we might all agree on, like delivering groceries. I don't know the demographics of the folks doing the more adventurous, risky, and potentially illegal protests, things about creating a lot of loud noise overnight at hotels that ICE agents are suspected of sleeping at and things like that. The demographic-wise, I don't know. I assume they're younger and more courageous than me. To be perfectly honest with you, is my default. What I do think is that I hope the thing that frustrates you the most is people being killed, and that then some people take actions after that might not sit right with you, might not sit right with me. But I think if there's no contest, the most frustrating thing that happened is not playing drums overnight at a hotel, no matter how we feel about that particular drum performance.
Right. And again, just going back to the point we were talking about earlier, I think what is so effective about this whole movement is that it does allow these people to slot in where they are comfortable, so that
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether I think that is right or wrong. If there's a way I can participate and help people in a way that feels valuable to me as a member of the community, there's a way for me to do it.
Yep.
So I want to kind of bring us home around a point that you made to me. So what's also really striking about this protest is that despite the fact there have been killings, despite the fact that there are families that are suffering tremendously, immigrant families that are suffering tremendously in your city and others as well, there's a level of joy in this protest that I think is telling and inspirational. Where does it come from? Why does it exist? How is it maintained?
I think there's a tactical value to joy because I think people come back for it. So you go and have a good time at a protest and you sing along to Stand By Me. And are you more likely to put on, 3 pairs of long johns the next time? I think to some extent, it just goes, if we have fun while we're here, we'll see more of you back. So there's a tactical value to it. There is also, it's steadying when everyone is singing, when a lot of people are singing, even if you aren't singing, it does truly create some feeling of unity that I think lasts longer than the event. And I do not believe that people want to be associated with evil things. Now, I want to be clear. I don't think immigration enforcement writ large is evil, period. Like that is not where I sit personally. What I will say is that when you see these videos of a 5-year-old being abducted in very cute 5-year-old clothes, you get to this point where you go, I don't want to be allied with the people doing that. And suddenly, if the other side is not only not doing that, but they're singing and there's art and there's these moments, I think as a human, you start to go, I don't feel good about what's happening over here. And I feel uniquely good about what's happening. So I think there's a tactical value. And I think there's just, let's appeal to people's humanity, which is to not do terrible things to 5-year-olds, but rather to sing songs and be in community.
So what can listeners who don't live in the Twin Cities take away from this conversation, from the experience of the Twin Cities, that they can use to make their own city better?
I believe that there's nothing stopping folks in any city from being on a Signal chat right now with their neighbors with no clearly articulated purpose. I was on a Signal chat about basketball. There's no problem with being on that technology and being with a group of people you're close to geographically and waiting for the purpose to show up. And there is a value to that, whether you ever have an emergency or not.
That is an amazing insight. I am not on a Signal chat. I mean, I'm on a community listserv, but I like the idea of that as an action item. Hey, listeners, do that. Start setting up Signal chats.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be nearly as moderated and controlled as it might need to be in a crisis. But that also means you understand the technology. You know what noise your phone makes when you get a Signal message as opposed to a regular text message. So I think that's of value. And I think also trying to get as clear as possible information about how your mayor, your governor, your city council people, your aldermen, whatever it may be, will respond. Because when they announce how they will respond, that will force them to at least have something to honor. Because I think the Twin Cities, some of our leaders got caught back-footed, where even though we thought this was coming, they hadn't been out front about what they planned to do when it did come. And I'm hoping this doesn't exist in other cities. But if it does, I'm hoping future cities have their leaders, business leaders, city leaders, on the record to some extent about how they plan to respond.
So, Sean, I host another podcast, and we have a sort of segment at the end of it, which we call Cocktail Chatter. And we're envisioning for Your City Could Be Better, a kind of cocktail chatter segment. I cannot, in this moment, conjure a great name for it, but I'm sure we'll think of a great name for it. And I just want to have a quick, lighter conversation with you about something that's distinctive about your city. So I have a little game for us.
Okay.
I don't know that much about the Twin Cities. I've been obviously a few times, but I do know that you have a weird relationship to temperature and you have a weird relationship to time. So I would like us, I'm a Washingtonian, I live in Washington, D.C. I would like us to have a little face-off, Washingtonian versus Minnesota, about temperature and time. And I have 3 questions for us. You've seen what they are. I will ask you the first question. When someone says to you in February in your hometown, oh, it's warm out, what temperature is it?
It is north of 25.
Oh, it is 55 plus here in Washington.
That's what it takes to say it's a warm day in Washington.
Warm. Yeah. Today it's 48 in Washington, but because we've been in super cold snap, that actually does feel warm. But I think in normal circumstances, it would take 55 for people to say it's warm. So 25. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I buy that. Okay. When someone says again in February, oh, it's really cold out, what temperature is it in the Twin Cities?
2 degrees or below.
And does that account for wind?
I thought about this the other day because I was walking my dog in what was 33-degree weather and I was freezing my ass off. And then my wife was like, oh, it was a terrible wind chill. And I think for someone to say it's very cold, wind chill plays a factor. But a lot of times when you're having those conversations, it is kind of a thermometer conversation. And if somebody goes, it's really cold out there and it's 10 degrees, a true Minnesotan will look askance at that no matter what the wind chill is. Because you're like, it's double digits. So it has to be single digits for the air temperature.
Although you did just say you were cold and it was 33, like 2 seconds after saying if it's above 25, it's warm. So
it was that wind chill. It was the wind chill.
In DC, it's like you're saying it's really cold, it's sub-freezing. Really cold is sub-freezing. So again, about a 30-degree gap. It seems like that's the gap. in strength. It's 30 degrees.
30 degrees between us and our nation's capital.
Okay, now we're going to switch to time and manners. So let's say someone invites you for dinner. Someone you don't know that very well, but is a fellow Minnesotan, and they invite you for dinner, but they forget to tell you what time it is. What time do you think you should show up for dinner?
I think I should show up for dinner at 7 o'clock.
Whoa.
I think kids play a factor in this. I'm in the age group right now where it's unthinkable that someone wouldn't tell me what time it is. I have a 5-year-old
Yes.
and an 8-year-old, and I need to figure that out. But if I had grown kids or if I didn't have kids, I think if somebody said, oh, come on over for dinner, at first I was thinking 6, and I was like, I really think if you're going to someone else's house, I don't think it's 6. I think it is 7 o'clock. And maybe we aren't 30 degrees apart on that.
It's interesting. I am a very much a early bird special kind of person. I'm also a bit older than you. And so if someone doesn't invite me over for 7, I'm like, what the hell? I won't be in bed until 9:45. Come on. That's ridiculous. So I want it to be earlier. But I think probably 7 would be the default in DC too. I don't think I was hoping you were going to say like 5. My sense is that you guys eat at 5, but I guess not.
Yeah, I think I was ready to be on that angle. And then I realized, I think that's still a 7. Here, I have a question for you, David. If somebody says, oh, that's a really early meeting, what time is that meeting at in DC culture?
In DC culture, I'm trying to. So right now, I work with all these people who are on more Western time zones to me. So it's slightly different. I'm trying to imagine a really early meeting, anything before 9.
Anything before 9. I think Minnesotans meet early. In the previous segment, I really think we're pretty organized people. I think that's part of another thing that helps us at this moment.
Good note.
I think we're well organized in general. If you go, oh, it's a really early meeting, and then you go, it's at 8 o'clock, someone will go, what's wrong with 8 o'clock? I don't think 8 o'clock quite hits oh my God, that's an early meeting.
Right.
That's got to be 7:30 or 7 in the Twin Cities.
That's interesting though, but because you're in the Midwest, you're used to working. Probably you work a lot with people who are east of you. And so a 9 o'clock East Coast time is an 8 o'clock Twin Cities time. And I can imagine there are lots of meetings that are sort of structured like that, I would guess.
I think that happens a lot. And I think some of this is sort of pre-internet experience, but I think that does happen. Also, the Twin Cities and Midwest in general, we're blessed with spectacular TV scheduling. I can't believe that you watch Saturday Night Live at 11:30 or that I
don't
news?
watch it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it's at 11:30. It's ridiculous.
We have the best TV setup for watching sports for everything because we're right in the middle.
Oh, nice. Sean McPherson, thank you so much for helping me invent Your City Could Be Better.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Your City Could Be Better. I'm your host, David Plotz. Our guest this week was Sean McPherson. Please listen to his amazing podcast, CityCast Twin Cities. Our producers were Lizzie Goldsmith, Priyanka Tilve, and Anna Weigel. Our music is by Carl Christensen. If you're enjoying the show, why not tell your friends? Come on, just tell your friends. You've got friends. Rate the show. Leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back next week with another conversation about how your city could be better.